Hello folks, welcome to another review and thoughts on. I decided why not do an old classic sequel series. The Shrek movies. Now, I grew up on, as a lot of people have probably back in the early 2000s, on Shrek. Shrek 1, Shrek 2, and then came Shrek the Third and forever after. I know a lot of people regard like Shrek 3 and 4 as like the weaker in the series, but I don't know. I don't mind them. Like, they're not bad to me. They're just okay. Like, the fourth one with Rumpelstiltskin, I thought was interesting. Because, like, he goes back. It's like a different dimension or reality where Shrek never met Fiona. Like, she, like, this warrior and leading, like, this resistance or whatever. I thought that was interesting. But the first movie, anyway, I've seen it few times. I don't care for. I don't mind it, but at the same time, it's not like my favorite. My favorite is the second one. So it's sort of like this Toy Story of Shrek. Toy Story 2 is my favorite. Well, really, I like all three Toy Story movies, but in this series, I would say Shrek 2 is my favorite because I grew up with that one the most, and I played the game on PS2 back in the day. I didn't get far because as soon as I got to like, there was some hard levels where like at the beginning where you're at the swamp and you have to fight a few enemies and then you explore like the swamp and then you play as Fiona singing. And you have to like I think you have to either make the birds blow up or you prevent them from blowing up from hitting high notes or whatever. And then when you get to far away, I got stuck because I know it wouldn't let me go forward to the castle because like I got into like the city part, but then I had to go like into these different sections of that town or city or kingdom or whatever. Right, you fought rats and monsters in a castle or whatever over here, but the actual the king and queen's castle was way up the hill way, and I never got to beat that game. I never got past the entrance to the kingdom level, so that's a ripoff. I never got to play as Puss. Really, back in the day, he was my favorite character in the movie. That's why I always wanted a cat, so I can dress him up like Puss. Puss in Boots. But yeah, anyway, Shrek 2 came out in 2004. It's directed by three people. I don't believe that. It's directed by three people, story by four people. Or no, I'm sorry, screenplay by four people, story by one person. And pretty much you have Mike Myers as the voice of Shrek, Cameron Diaz as Fiona, Julie Andrews as the Queen, the mom of Fiona, and Antonia Banderas as Puss in Boots. Oh, and Eddie Murphy as Donkey. I will say I still enjoy this movie as much as I did back in the day, but I do see issues I have with it now versus back in the day when I didn't notice really any of that stuff. Such as, now I haven't seen the first movie in a while, but I know the whole lesson or the whole thing is love yourself or accept I think it's accept the person you are or accept that person for who they truly are, no matter whatever they look like or whatever. I get that, but this they did that twice, because I think it wasn't that in the first movie at the end where Fiona decides to stay as an ogre even though she had the choice to stay human, even though that's what her true form was. I thought she was just cursed as a ogre at certain times at night or whatever, or at certain day or whatever. And then by the end of the first one, like I'm gonna accept I want to be like you or whatever. And so I understand the whole lesson of she can be herself. Why can't I actually would have made it where, okay, she's human, but she loves Shrek, who's an ogre. He stays an ogre. How about we do that? We have her as human, because that's what she really is, and not be cursed forever as an ogre, even though she's okay with it, but still. Why can't we do that instead of, oh, you know what, since you're an ogre, I'm going to be an ogre because I love you, even though I can't just love you even though I'm supposed to be human, and can't just be human and love you, but okay. And then they do that in the same here. They do the same lesson from the first movie in this movie, I just noticed. Where he takes a potion and that changes him into human here, and her again. But she decides. But then I'm thinking, but the rules of the potion that Shrek and Donkey took, where at midnight you either stay that way by kissing your significant other or whatever, or your true love or whatever. But I'm thinking, so wait, so what about Donkey? He doesn't have, because he drank the potion too, and what? Just because Shrek and Fiona didn't kiss and decide to stay that way, so he has to change. But the rules in that potion are to kiss your. So that part I don't understand, because he's a donkey and he changes into like a horse or whatever, or a pony or whatever. And I will say Eddie Murphy is having a time in this movie. He's having fun, and you can really see it, and you can hear it in his voice. Anyway, the movie is basically Shrek and Fiona after the first movie, which I'm saying right now retrospect, this takes place right after the first film. Granted, says Shrek 2, but I'm saying in terms of, usually like sequels will take years after the first film or months after. No, this one takes place right after they get married. They're on their honeymoon right now. Honeymoon Avenue. If you don't know what reference that is, then Grande. It's a good song. But yeah, they're on their honeymoon, and things are going great for them at the swamp. It's a montage of them, on their honeymoon. And then we see Donkey, and then he gets introduced again. And then we get introduced to Fiona's parents, and the dad doesn't accept Shrek as Charming, as Prince Charming. So him and the Fairy Godmother of Fiona, who's evil, kinda, or just devious, mischievous. She is actually the mother of Prince Charming, and they're trying to do it. They're pulling a scheme on trying to get Fiona to fall in love with Charming instead of Shrek. So then, throughout the movie, it's Shrek trying to he's trying to better himself. Pretty much try to change himself for Fiona, even though, because he doesn't want to go to the far, far away kingdom and meet her parents. He'd rather just stay in the swamp. And she wants to go, so they go. Then we meet Puss in Boots, because the king decides to put a hit on Shrek, kinda, where he tricks him into spending time with him. So he decides to tell Shrek in the morning they're gonna go hunting. But then we meet Puss, and then that's a funny scene where you see like the claws of Puss, and like he's clawing at Shrek, and then they do an Alien reference where he bursts out its chest. And then they team up later on, and then they go to the Fairy Godmother's factory, I guess. Which I didn't understand that part, because like, even when we're introduced to her when Fiona goes to her room the night prior, she flies in her window, and then she sings a terrible music number. And then she brings like the furniture alive, and I got a chuckle out of. I always laugh at the part where, like, cause she brings the furniture alive, and like the they get an attitude because like Fiona's like because like the fairy godmother's like telling her like all the stuff that she can have if she just I guess follows in her whatever her influence, and like Fiona's like stop, and then she stops the music number, and then she's like fairy godmother, I really don't need all this, and then the furniture in the room is like all right, be that way, like they're all talking, and you hear like sharp like chatter amongst the cabinets and the chairs. I thought was funny. It always gets me to chuckle. They all have attitudes and oh, they got feelings. All right. Um. But yeah, we they have a fight, which that's when we get the king decides to tell Shrek we'll meet tomorrow. Um. And pretty much the final third act, I guess. Pretty much. Um. They okay, so Shrek and Donkey take the potion of true love or whatever. They change. Shrek's human, Donkey is a horse or pony or whatever he is. And then we go to the castle where they decide to go back there and oh no, our heroes have given up because even though he can just break the freaking window because he goes to a room because he hears her scream. So they end up going the opposite ways of where they're supposed to go. So Fiona goes outside, and then Shrek goes into her room, but then that's the fairy godmother tricking him. So then she locks him in there, even though I'm like, can't you like just bolt down the door or something, or I don't know, try to attack her or break the window like and scream or something, but like he's screaming, but the windows are closed, and he sees Fiona hugging Prince Charming because she thinks that's Shrek. And I guess the fairy godmother back in the day, I guess she helped the king, Fiona's dad, become either a king or his real form was a frog. So she changed him back in the day into a human. Because then at the end, when he gets changed back into a frog, he's like, I really didn't want you to see me this way. So I guess he must have been actually not so, perfect after all. But then, and then he dies in the third movie at the beginning, so, okay. Because then they want to go find our King Arthur, young King Arthur. But, yeah, this movie, the sequel, I don't mind this movie overall. Like, the animation's good. The music is interesting and pretty good when I remember it. But yeah, the whole lesson of I love that person even though I can't just stay the way I am or my true form, but I'm gonna change into their form because that's what they are. So, and then again the rules with the potion of Donkey doesn't have a true love, so why does that? How does it affect him if he doesn't kiss anybody? He doesn't. I mean, I guess Dragon, but Dragon's not there, not in that scene in that fight. So, you know, but yeah, I didn't understand. So the lesson in these movies, or at least in the first two, are bizarre to me a little bit. Not bizarre, but kind of, okay. But then we get a post-credit scene where, Donkey and Dragon have kids, so they're half donkey, half dragon. I'm like, wow, that's gross, but okay. And then I remember, and then it ends with them singing a song and a song number, and then it ends, and that's Shrek 2. Everybody lives up. Well, I guess he's still gonna be king, even though he's a frog, and the queen's gonna still be married happily with a king who's a frog. Okay. There's a funny scene. There's a funny scene where Pinocchio, during their fight with the fairy godmother, he gets zapped with the wand and he gets turned into a real boy, and then he's dancing, and then he gets turned back into a puppet again. So I felt bad for that. I felt bad for him there. You got to be a real boy for like what, maybe 5 seconds, maybe 7 seconds, and then he gets turned back. And another funny scene is when Donkey keeps asking, "Are they there yet?" And Shrek's like, "No," and then on and on they do that, a montage of that. Another scene I liked was the giant muffin, or not muffin, the gingerbread man, where they decide to create a big giant one because they want to get into the castle at the ball to stop Fiona from, kissing, was the name. But yeah, overall, I liked the film. I thought it was a decent watch. I still enjoy it, even though it's been like a lot of years since I saw it. But yeah, overall, I like it. Um, please leave a comment down below, or a like would help a lot. I finally have a PayPal link in the description down below, so if you want to request any movie reviews or audio commentaries or reaction videos, just you can either do that through my PayPal or join my Patreon. I think it's $5 for certain tiers or whatever. I think I'm not sure how Patreon works still. I'm still trying to figure that out. But yeah, I have an Instagram down below as well. But yeah, overall, peace and love.